Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I'm your host, Ril Joe Quinn. This on a Tuesday as we near the end of January. Soon, it'll be spring before we know it. This is, of course, is episode 991. Countdown to 1,000 continues. Week 21, appreciating greatness. We'll talk more about that in terms of the football. And that's, of course, where we begin with the conference. Of course, you can always like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated as we head towards episode 1,000 of the Ril Dil podcast. Game of the week. This was pretty easy one to pick out amongst the two. Kansas City, again, just absolutely Freddy Krueger and the Buffalo Bills, and this is a nightmare that the Buffalo Bills cannot wake up from and have never woken up from. And I don't know, maybe they never will. They edge the Buffalo Bills 32-29. This game was an excellent game to watch. Only one turnover in this game. It was a fascinating game to watch. I'm gonna take the Buffalo perspective because I'll get to Kansas City in a deep dive, but I'm gonna go strictly Buffalo here. If you're Buffalo, I thought Buffalo played. I'm not gonna say a game. I thought, like I said, I thought, like, what do you do if you're Buffalo? Because I really thought that you played extremely, extremely well in this game. You played well enough to win. You had no turnovers, and you're looking through the box score now. The yardage was basically a wash. As I look through the yardage now on it, yeah, they outgained them by like 6 yards, but that basically was a wash. You have no turnovers. Um, Mahomes plays well, but doesn't. Again, the Mahomes, the numbers you can't reach. You can't go by Mahomes in regards to numbers. His impact on winning is that it just exceeds any numbers that he puts up. We'll talk more about that when we discuss Kansas City. But I mean, you look at the game. Again, no turnovers. You rush for 147 yards. Um, you have no turnovers. You rush for 147 yards. You were 3 for 3 in the red zone. Now again, this was the difference though. They on fourth downs and third and fourth downs, and this is where Kansas City is the best situational football team in the NFL. Kansas City goes 6 for 10 on third and fourth downs. Buffalo was 9 for 20. 9 for 20. Uh, and those were two big missed fourth downs that Buffalo had. Again, the also the missed the 2 point conversions that they missed on loom large. Loom large. And yeah, I cannot stand these teams that chase points before the fourth quarter. I just don't. I understand because if you miss a 2 point conversion and you don't have to go and you don't get it, you're going to be chasing those points for the rest of the game. Buffalo missed one in the second quarter, and then of course, if you go for it in the second quarter, you have to go for it if you score again. So they went for it again in the third quarter and failed as well. So what's the difference? What's that? That's 2 points. Instead of 31, 32, 29, if they would have gotten the ball back, it would have been 32-31, and they're going down the field possibly to kick the game-winning field goal. So that, I don't understand these coaches just being obsessed with chasing points before the fourth quarter. Anything inside the fourth quarter, I'm with. If you can tie the game or if you can cut the game to a field goal, something like that. But besides that, just kick the extra point. But again, Buffalo when you play Kansas City, your A game is not enough. When you play Kansas City, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect. You can't have two. You can't go 9 for 20 on third and fourth downs. You can't have spotty play calling with the fourth downs with the short yardage. You can't miss two. You can't have two-point conversions fail. You can't do it. You absolutely have to be perfect when you play the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, Buffalo. This law is by far. I mean, I'm not a Buffalo fan, but this loss is not as bad. This is not the worst Kansas City loss that they've had. I think last you had to give me a building last year. So I don't think I think last year I saw last year was much worse. Number one, they had a game in their building last year, and number two, Kansas City. That was an 11-6 Kansas City team. Remember, Kansas City was not in the regular season. They looked as vulnerable as they've looked during this whole 6-year run last year, going 11-6. And if you can recall, they had to go on the road. With the exception of the Miami game in the wild card round, they had to go on the road to get to the Super Bowl, beating Buffalo, and then of course Baltimore in the conference championship. And this was not the best Buffalo team that we've seen in the Josh Allen era. That probably would go back to 2021. Probably I would say the 2021 team, that team that really could have beat Kansas City when they lost that overtime game back in the 21 season. So I don't. You could fire McDermott, but who are you replacing him with? Like I remember when the Indiana Pacers back in the day, it was in 2003, lost the conference finals. It was a tough, brutal series to the Detroit Pistons in 6 games. Rick Carlisle was the then Indiana head coach. They said, "Hey, you know what, Rick, you got us as far as you can go. Um, we're moving on to Larry Brown." Now, yeah, Larry Brown, who was even then, even before he won a championship with the Pistons, which he did in his first year, was a legendary coach and had already won a college championship, and had a ton of success with the Spurs and various franchises. Even going back to his ABA days. There's no Larry Brown in the NFL right now. Like unless you want to get Belichick out of North Carolina, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, I thought this Buffalo team, similar to the Commanders, and we'll talk about them, they overachieved. I thought they overachieved. I didn't think coming into this season, I thought Buffalo would make the playoffs, but I didn't think Buffalo would be in a conversation to be a Super Bowl team. I thought that this was a year where they could take a major step back, a transitional year, a year to kind of get their roster fixed, and maybe they go 10-7 this year. Maybe they go 11-6 and probably lose in the first round, the wild card round, and then set things up for 2020. Played as well as they've played in the regular season. They played as well. They looked like a championship team. They looked like a team that could win the Super Bowl. And I thought coming into these playoffs that Buffalo could win. I didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl, but I thought that could. They were on that short list of teams that could win the Super Bowl. And you look at the team. Josh Allen had the best year of his career. This offense was cooking. They put 29 points on the Kansas City Chiefs, who nobody scores that many in the playoffs. Teams haven't scored that many points, haven't scored like that against Kansas City in the playoffs. Go look at the playoffs last year and what their defense gave up. They put 29 points on the Kansas City Chiefs. So I guess I'm trying to look at a glass half full situation in regards to the Buffalo Bills and not make this out to be like the sky is falling. And again, this is very easy for me to say. I'm not a Buffalo fan, I have not been tortured by the Kansas City Chiefs like the Buffalo Bills have. I mean, you're going, to go 0-4 against the same team with no Super Bowl appearances. When your quarterback has played, Mahomes against the Chiefs, not Mahomes, excuse me. Josh Allen against the Chiefs basically has been like for his career is like 10 interceptions, 11 touchdowns, and one interception. He's played near flawless football against the Chiefs. Now, and to be honest with you, outside of the first drive where he almost threw two interceptions, I thought he went toe to toe with with Patrick Mahomes for the most part. Mahomes was more efficient with the completions. They had a higher completion percentage, but I really thought, uh, I thought Josh Allen played well. Like I had no like I really thought Josh Allen played well in this game and played well enough for the team to win. That throw he made to Kincaid when Spag against Steve Spagnuolo, who is really has to be in the consideration for one of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. We have to start having that conversation about Spagnuolo. That blitz, the corner blitz, it just perfectly timed blitz, forces uh, Josh Allen to in essence throw a Hail Mary, and it almost Kincaid probably should have caught it. I'm not calling Mark Andrews to play. Like this wasn't like a Mark Andrews, if you're old enough, some Jackie Smith in the Super Bowl with the Cowboys and Steelers. It wasn't that. I'm not going to knock Kincaid for not catching it, but it was a catchable. It was absolutely a catchable football. It 100% was a catchable football. So you look at like I said, Kansas City. Um, Again, the Bills. The only other team that has scored more, like you look at the last two playoffs, right? Look at the 22 playoffs. Uh, San Francisco scores 22 points. Baltimore scores 10 points. Miami scores 7 points. Like the Bills didn't put 29 again to put 29 points on this defense. This is a top 10 defense. Um, this is a tested. Tested. This is a top 10 defense, top five scoring defense on this regular season. And in the playoffs, they go to another level, right? They go to really being one of the best defenses in the postseason, especially situations, with blitz packages, with Chris Jones goes to another level, Spagnola. So put 29 points on that defense. It's like they ran the ball for 147 yards. Your quarterback giving a performance. Um, again, I don't know what. Yeah, I really don't know what you want. What more can you ask from your team? Um, Josh Allen in his career against the Chiefs, 0-4, which is the most important thing. Your job as a quarterback is to win the game, get your team in the end zone. That's your quarterback. That is your two jobs. But 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of 100.2, and took 65% of his passes. Um, the Josh Allen, I don't walk out of this game saying like Josh Allen, thinking less of Josh Allen in this game. Um, Now, in order, going into this game, and I'll pick Kansas City. I won't ever make the mistake of that. I picked Buffalo to beat Kansas City um, last year, and I made that mistake. I would never make that mistake ever again. Um, in general, picking against Kansas City in general, this has nothing to do. This is not anti-Buffalo, but I've seen enough. After last year, it was just like, no, I'm not. I'm not. I learned my lesson in the Buffalo game. Because after that, I picked Kansas City to beat Baltimore, and of course San Francisco en route to their third Super Bowl in 5 years. But I mean, with Buffalo, I can't. I'm not. I can't knock the Bulls. I'm sorry. Like if you're gonna knock. If you're gonna knock now. If you're gonna knock the coaching, like if you're gonna yeah, Sean McDermott is not Andy Reid. Steve Spagnola, got the best of Joe Brady late in the game. But when they put 29 points on the board, 29 points on the board. We knew the Buffalo defense was not very good. It wasn't. It was weak. I mean, the Buffalo defense, we knew that was not a big time defense. And it showed. So I don't, you're gonna rip Buffalo. Be my guest. The Buffalo Bills are a legitimately top five NFL franchise right now, maybe even a top three. No one outside of the teams that have beaten Kansas City in the playoffs. Now, keep this in mind. Patrick Mahomes only has 3 losses in the playoffs. He's now 17-3 in the playoffs. He passed Joe Montana for second all time in terms of playoff wins, and the only guy of course, he is behind is Tom Brady, who has 35. He's 35-13 in the playoffs. He only has 3 playoff losses. That's two of those. The Brady, two of those are to Brady. The other one is to Joe Burrow. That's it. That's the list. Burrow and Brady. So with the Bills, I listen. I think there are some things that for the Bills, I look at. Uh, I wouldn't make any moves as far as McDermott. Um, I would stay with McDermott. McDermott did a tremendous job this year. Just look what happened with Ohio State and Ryan Day. Sometimes you just gotta be patient. Um, Sometimes being in the conversation, don't ever take for granted being in the conversation of a Super Bowl contender year in, year out. The Buffalo Bills have been in the Super Bowl conversation for basically the last since 2020. They've been in the Super Bowl conversation going into the year. So they've been for 5 years. They've been in the conversation to challenge for the Super Bowl. Um, they were, Super Bowl caliber team in 2021. This year, um, No, had they gotten past Kansas City, but they were in the conversation. So they, you cannot, with the exception, whose team just turned around their fortunes after being down for 30 years in the doldrums. Don't take for granted being knocking on the door. Don't take that for granted. But again, to beat Kansas City, you absolutely have to be perfect. You have to be. When I mean perfect, it's just not even not turning over in football. It goes beyond that. It goes to situational football. It goes to it's just it's so many. There are so many things that they do in terms of the game within the game, the way they can control the game, the way they understand time and situation, the way even when you go towards Patrick Mahomes, converting the 3rd and 9, put the game away. How many times we see teams just run it into a wall and put the ball away, and then the team has another shot to score or possibly take the lead or win the game. They don't, when Kansas City has the ball and they can run the clock out, they run the clock out. It's just that simple. They absolutely run the clock out. So, one year for Buffalo Bills. I know Bills fans don't want to hear that, especially that 0-4 basically stings as well because they're 0-4 in the Super Bowl. So this is that's well, again, this is not you know this is absolutely is not on that level. But they are like they are Kansas City's they are Kansas City's biggest threat. Like they are without question Kansas City's biggest threat in the AFC. They remain that to me. Um, and we'll see what happens with them moving forward. Again, I don't think you go in and just you make small changes. I don't think you go in and shake things up. Like I don't obviously, you want the game at home, you want home field advantage. That would be a goal. You want Kansas City coming in being fatigued off a week, and you want them in the championship game possibly where they beat up a little bit. So yeah, everything has even that is no guarantee that you're going to beat them, but you don't want to have to travel to Arrowhead to play that team. Like you ideally want them in your home state in your home stadium. We're gonna deep dive this historic run that Kansas City is on. They enter. You're talking about a fifth Super Bowl appearance in 6 years, which has never been done. Try and win their fourth in 6 years. They would join the likes. They would tie the San Francisco 49ers for second most Super Bowls of all time, and the Dallas Cowboys as well. Both those teams have five. Of course, the Steelers and Patriots are number one all time with 6 Super Bowl wins. And this team over the last couple of postseasons, they're on this just ridiculous run. They're 21-2 in their last 3 games, 23 games. The Denver loss, of course, they didn't play anybody. They come off a year. Last year they go 11-6. They have a miraculous one of the more remarkable Super Bowl runs in the history of the sport, where they won a Super Bowl last year when no one expected them to win it, coming off a season where they wouldn't have home field advantage for the first time. One of the few times, well, I think basically for the first time in the Andy Reid Mahomes era, and they had to go on the road in the playoffs and culminated with a win over the San Francisco 49ers. Then they come into this year, start the season 15-1. But there's still questions. Like there's still questions about, is this team vulnerable? There's still questions because they are winning all these one score games. With the win on Sunday, they extended their record streak to seven. They have 17 straight one score wins. 17 straight. Just put that in perspective. That is a season's worth of one score wins. 17 straight. So not straight, but 17 one score wins. They've won 17 games where They have been decided by one score. Let me get that. They didn't have 17 one-score wins in this season. They've won 17 games in a row that have been decided by one score. One score. Um, I was thinking about like how dominant they are right now, and like if they win the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, and we'll talk about that next week. We'll deep dive that game and the particulars next week. This week, I'll give you a small. I won't even talk about that talk about that game because we still going to win. If they take out Philadelphia, I really believe that you have to call this team the greatest team of all time. I really believe that. I don't, and again, I don't care about the stats. I don't care about the stats. Don't give me this point differential shit. Don't give me these Mahomes' numbers. No, 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 no. They see their dominance is more impressive. Like I'm more impressed by their dominance winning all these one score games. Because they're in total control of these games. They are in absolute total control of these games when it comes down to it. They've mastered again. They get the ball and have to run out the clock. They're going to run out the clock. Like Mahomes does not care. Like Mahomes got to a level where, Lamar, Joe Burrow, guess what? You can have the MVPs in the regular season. You can have them, take them. I don't care about numbers. I've thrown for 5,000 yards. Been there, done that. I've thrown for 50 touchdowns. Been there, done that. I've won MVP. Been there, done that. I don't care. He doesn't care. Like I heard, I hear like, hey, Mahomes is, Mahomes, I don't know, man. Maybe some slippage, even though he's only 29 years old. Look at his numbers. We're back. Hey, Mahomes, look at his numbers. There's some slippage, and he only had 26 touchdowns. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They have what they've done. They have as many 10 play drives as any team in the league. They convert 50% of their third downs. You have to look when you look at Kansas City. You have to look at they are a team. That franchise is chess. They're playing chess. They're playing what they're doing is like no one is doing in the NFL right now. They play a different game than everybody else in the NFL. They play a different game. Don't get caught up in numbers when you look at Kansas City. Don't get caught up in numbers. You can't. They're not going to get you, especially offensively. They're not doing. They don't care about. They don't need to score 30 points. They don't. Like they really, like I'm saying, they're really comfortable with scoring. Hey, we'll get you 21. We good. Next week, this week I only need 24. Okay, cool. Like they're playing a different game. They're a team that is truly designed and built for the postseason. They're built for the postseason. And again, similar to the New England Patriots, they put pressure on you. They put so much pressure on you because they are mistake. They for the most part are going to be mistake free. They had their first turnover in this game with a messed up handoff, a botched handoff in 2 months. They hadn't turned the ball over since November. I believe since that Bills game that they lost. Maybe I think it was like week 11. 2 months they hadn't turned the ball over. Think about that. That's how they move. I mean, they put so much pressure on you that you start making mistakes. That's what they do. It is beautiful to watch. See, I listen, and please, enough about. If I hear about another officiating call, a ref call, please stop it. They're winning. You know why they win? Because they have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. They have one of the greatest coaches of all time. They have the most well-run franchise in the football right now. Not in probably maybe in all the sports right now. Like that's why they win. They don't beat themselves. You want to blame the officials? Blame the officials. Go ahead. Be my guest. This is dominance. Like I respect this type of dominance even more than the 84 49ers or the 85 Bears. All right, forget about the point. Forget about the point differential. This is real dominance that you're watching because you're watching a team that it must be it just must be torture for an opponent to be like, we should have beat them. We almost could have beat them. Why can't we beat this team? They're not that good. Like you can convince yourselves they're not that good. They're good, but we could have beat them. You know how many teams have said that over the past like 2 years? Or in those three Super Bowl wins that they have? Like San Francisco has said it twice. Philadelphia has said it. Baltimore, Buffalo, the one game, the Cincinnati. Now Cincinnati got on one time, of course. But even remember that game in 22, Cincinnati was right there. Cincinnati probably had to probably say, "Hey, we could have went to a Super Bowl again." So again, this is a team that is playing a different game right now. And you look at this, like I said, 17 one-score games. Um, Mahomes, 5 Super Bowl appearances. Uh, this will be, of course, his fifth Super Bowl appearance in 7 years. Um, More than 8 years. He came in, well, 8 years. Came in, remember, he said his first year. Brady had 10 in 23 years, 50 touchdowns, 9 turnovers. I'll repeat that again 50 touchdowns and 9 turnovers over the course of his career. Never lost in the wild card round, never lost in the divisional round. All his losses are either in a conference championship or a Super Bowl. So again, those Mahomes and everybody else. Like I don't want to hear. I don't care about the NFL top 100. I don't care about the MVP. I don't give me all these. Don't give me these numbers that Lamar Jackson's putting up, or Joe Burrow's putting up in the regular season, or Josh Allen's putting up in the regular season. They don't matter. How I judge my quarterback is: are you like the quarterback is judged in terms of what you are doing, how many games you are winning. Quarterback is judged on how many championships you win. That's how you judge your quarterback. Intangibles. Can you take a team? Can you raise the level of a team? Just like Jaden Daniels did this year with the average commander roster this year. So again, this is one of the great runs. You're witnessing history. This is one again. Appreciate this greatness that you're seeing from the Kansas City Chiefs. It does not come along that often in sports, let alone in the NFL. And like I said, they go on the three-peat. They're talking about like who the last three-peat in in professional sports and team sports was the Lakers in from 2002. That's 20. That is talking 23 years ago. 23 years ago. From one great quarterback to a underappreciated quarterback. The Washington Commanders, of course, ran into an absolute buzzsaw in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles, 55-23. Um, there were moments in this game where you thought the Commanders had there was some light, 20-12. Mike Nichols did fumbles. Next thing you know, it's 27-12, 34-23. They score, and then they get the ball back and another fumble, and that basically was game. That basically was game set match. Philadelphia going to make it 41-23, and then so on. It was just a party at the link. Listen, before I get to the Hurts, If you're a Commanders fan, this season was beyond a like to say pleasant surprise would be an understatement. I did not, going into this season, you're thinking I didn't want Jalen Hurts, excuse me, I didn't want Jaden Daniels to play because I didn't trust that the offensive line could protect them, and I've been seeing a lot of these first year quarterbacks just get the absolute shit kicked out of them. Um, and I was like, hey, if you got a red shirt with NFL red shirt, then so be it. Did not want him to deal with what Caleb Williams is dealing with in Chicago, or what David Carr did back in the day in Houston and Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. You have to change a culture in 1 year is not difficult. It's almost a borderline miracle. They have completely changed the entire culture of that franchise. You have 90, 87 plus $1 million in cap space. You have some draft picks. Um, this team should be they should the roster should look a lot better come next year. When you get back to the conference championship, we'll see. Things change from year to year. A lot of things have to go your way injury wise. But the foundation for this team is set for years to come. You have the most important position in sports set up. Jaden Daniels in this postseason was phenomenal. Even in this game, he threw the ball well. That interception, the game was over. So I don't. That's whatever with that interception. But he played a near flawless postseason. Um, I did not think that this game was too big for him. They just made too many mistakes with the fumbles. Give the Eagles credit. The Eagles made the Commanders feel them with the physicality, and it's almost it's almost better that the Commanders got their ass whipped like this to show them how far they are from the Eagles. The Eagles are a championship caliber team. Certainly, would nobody be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. I'll be a little surprised because I can't say it's the Chiefs or the Chiefs, but the Eagles certainly are a championship caliber team, and that's who you are chasing in your division. If you're Washington, that is the team. That is the gold standard in the division. They won the gold standard in the NFC, second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years. They're physical on both lines of scrimmage. They can get to the quarterback. They can run the ball down your throats. With one of the most powerful, brutal running games we've seen in a long time, where they just physically take your heart. 7 rushing touch like Red Range and the Chicago Bears and Vince Lombardi and you're going back. That's going way back where that's like we really don't want to throw a pass. But the difference in this game, the difference in this game was, and who was the best player on the field in this game? It wasn't Saquon Barkley, it wasn't Jalen Carter. The best player on the field was Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was phenomenal in this game. He was in total control. But the reason why I thought the Commanders had a shot, the only reason why I thought the Commanders had a legitimate shot, because I didn't think Jalen Hurts was healthy. He did not look good at the end of that Ram game with the knee. They've been quiet. They've been very tight-lipped about it uh, throughout the course of the week. Yeah, limited practices throughout leading up to the week. We knew he was going to play, but didn't know how well he was going to move. He threw the ball as he threw it in a month. He again no turnovers, and please don't dismiss having no turnovers. I mean, Baker Mayfield had a turnover that changed the whole complexion of the Washington game. Otherwise, Washington would have been out in the wild, could have been possibly out in the wild card game. The turnover, Jordan Love, that Philly Green Bay game was closer than what it was considering how Jordan Love's those turnovers caused. No Jordan Love turnovers. So your quarterback, that's the one thing Patrick Mahomes does. That's the one thing that took Josh Allen to another level this year. Lamar Jackson has to learn that in the postseason. Tackling the football is everything. It's everything. It's everything in terms of what you want with your quarterback. One of the top jobs of your quarterback. And Jalen Hurts this year, and for the most part in his career in the playoffs, has done an excellent job at protecting the football. Jalen Hurts again 5-3 in the postseason, going to a second Super Bowl in 3 years. I don't think Jalen. I mean, I think you know Jalen Hurts is not a game manager. Jalen Hurts He's an above average quarterback. He's a legit top 10 quarterback. Was he, listen, that list at the top of the quarterback heap, you're talking about guys who are going to end up being all time greats as far as MVPs and championships or what have you. And or depending on Mahomes, I mean, Mahomes might not let anybody win a championship, but you would think. I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to the Hall of Fame. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, those guys will end up going to the Hall of Fame. But when you get past that, um, not again, and I would take Jaden Daniels as well. I'm starting the team, as a quarterback. In terms of my quarterback situation, but Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni said it. All he does is win. He's in his whole career. He's played on nothing but winning teams. No, this guy was a second round draft pick. He was not highly sought out guys just coming out of college. There were a lot of doubts about Jalen Hurts coming out of college. Every year of his career, won 5 playoff games, which is nothing to shake your head at, has a winning playoff record. Again, you cannot look at numbers with Jalen Hurts. Remember, one of the most overrated stats in all of football is passing yards. Josh Allen only averaged this year 219 yards passing a game. Jaden Daniels only averaged like 209. Both those guys, you're talking about Josh Allen and the MVP candidate, and Jaden Daniels helped change it, help take a team from 4-13 to 14-6. So it does not impact winning. Those passing yards again. Those passing yards are very overrated. It's not how you gauge a quarterback or how many yards he throws for. Especially considering that the team is a run first team. They get their explosive plays from running the football. Period, point blank. They play to their strengths. They play to their running game and they play to their defense. And he does not turn over the football. And if you remember last time he played Kansas City in the Super Bowl, he was great. Now the strip sack fumble turned out to be that was returned for taken back to the house by Nick Bolton. That was the difference in the game. Otherwise, it would have been a flawless performance by Hurts. That game got him that contract as well, $255 million contract. Trust me. If he went up there and stuck up the joint, I don't know if he gets that contract. That kind of solidified to the Eagles that you know what, we're going to have to pay this guy. So he really made a lot of people eat some crow with his performance on Sunday. He was tremendous in that game. It was absolutely spectacular. The fourth and fifth throw to A.J. Brown really didn't miss any, was accurate with his passes. Was in, like I said, in total control of the offense. Again, just Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl, the fifth, and the lost. Of course, they won Super Bowl back in 2017 season against ridiculous run, which needs to be studied more on how Nick Foles became for 2 weeks or for 3 weeks the best quarterback in the NFL. Because like that Nick Foles thing, everybody was the same after that. Like that was that was even like Doug Williams. Doug Williams, when Washington played Denver, there were talks about that. That was the biggest quarterback mismatch in the history maybe of football. And Doug Williams outplayed John Elway by had one degree. It was for a day the greatest quarterback in NFL history for that one day. Well, Nick Foles did that for the entire 2017 postseason. That needs to be studied because it's Nick Foles. It's Nick Foles now. So we'll see if the Eagles get that second championship. Again, we'll talk much more about that next week as we look at the matchups. Again, these are the two best teams in the NFL. I know people are somewhat annoyed by seeing, it's kind of like you've seen Andy Reid versus the Eagles, but the bottom line is, from a football standpoint, we're going to see a high level game here. We're seeing Mahomes go against that defense. Seeing Spagnuolo try to slow down this great rushing offense. There's some fascinating matchups and some narratives at play here. Listen, the Andy Reid aspect, the Andy Reid that's over with. That's over and done with. There shouldn't be any hard feelings from Philadelphia. Andy Reid set the foundation for the Eagles and what they are right now without what he did during his tenure there. But there's some other storylines and narratives that will be exposed during in New Orleans. But these are without question the two best teams and probably right now the two best franchises in all of football in Kansas City and Buffalo. Jimmy Center. He's now a three-time major winner at the age of 21. He tennis. So along with him and Carlos Alcaraz, you have two 21-year-olds who have three majors apiece in the next decade. Now, from a domestic standpoint, one of these guys is American, so that hurts tennis for sure. Uh, Listen, tennis has been, despite the fact that we went through an era of 20 years where you get Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, the fact that none of those guys were American really hurt the sport of tennis domestically in terms of USA. When tennis was at its best, you had Agassi, Sampras at the top of their games. That's just the fact of the matter. That's just the reality of the situation, reality of tennis. But this guy is going to be a great player. Is already a great player. And seems he's going to have a long career. And with those two guys, you could probably so that probably signifies the fact that Novak Djokovic will never win another major, which is fine. I mean, he's 37 years old. He got to the semifinals, which is great for somebody his age. But these two are going to be dominating the sport for many, many years to come. So he wins the week. As far as Ril Thoughts, Jimmy Butler gets suspended again indefinitely. He's already lost well over $2.5 million. Again, Jimmy, the Miami Heat really they I'm saying they mind fucked Jimmy Butler because when he's coming off a suspension and you tell him, hey, Alonzo Highsmith is going to be a starter, and you come out the bench, and you know what time it was going to be with Jimmy Butler. You know he was going to stand for that shit. Like it's almost like they bullied him into the suspension. Because again, a couple of podcasts ago, I said that I might have said I don't know if I said I might have said on a text thread. This is just send Jimmy home. Well, in the collective bargaining agreement, that in the last collective bargaining agreement, that is not an option. So he just couldn't send him home until they traded him. That's not an option. So the only way he either was going to play or do something that caused him to continuously get suspension, and he continuously gets suspended, and that's exactly what he did. Walking off the floor, missing a team flight. Again, this is Jimmy going scorched earth. This is Jimmy Butler just absolutely going ape shit and decreasing his trade value. Like, listen, I've said repeatedly that both sides messed up with how they handled this. Especially Miami should have traded him in the offseason. But with Jimmy Butler, you're getting paid close to $50 million. Like, you literally all you have to do is show up. Even if you wasn't playing hard, just run out the string and get traded. They want to trade you. They're going to trade you. Right now, he's just making a complete ass of himself at this point, to be honest with you, and decreasing his own trade value. So he's going to get traded for the trade deadline. This is not going to, there's no way that this will carry on the next, 3 months or so. For the next 3 or 4 months, it's just not going to happen. It's a toxic situation. Can't have this. You can't have that situation dominating your team every day. I don't care how strong the culture is. These guys are still human beings at the same talking about his teammates, and no one wants to answer those questions every single day about Jimmy Butler. And it's kind of part ways, like at this point. But I will say this again. I don't know who's advising Jimmy Butler in terms of how he's handling the situation, but you can't handle a situation any worse than what Jimmy Butler's handling, how he's handling it right now. Again, even if you didn't play hard, if you just showed up and just play, 20 minutes, score 10 to 12 points and keep it moving, everybody knows what you're capable of when you're engaged. But they're gonna get probably 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, if that, for Jimmy Butler at this point. Like he's really decreased his own trade value, which is gonna make it harder for them to trade for him to get traded. And I think, he might, no, Jimmy Butler might be actually doing this on purpose to make sure that Miami doesn't get any decent players for him. I mean, he really might. I just thought about it. This might just be like, I'm going to decrease my own trade value so that y'all don't get shit back for me. I could, like, he was that kind. He was that cunning. I could see him doing something like that. Because that's the only sense that this makes at this point. Trust me, they want to trade you. They want to trade him. They want to trade him, but we'll see what happens. He should be traded, but he definitely. I think, bro, I'll be shocked if he's not traded before the trade deadline. Target. So Tabitha Brown went on social media and basically pleaded. Of course, Target was announced that they're going to roll back some DEI initiatives as they basically got on their knees for one Donald Trump. A number of these companies have done that, Walmart, Amazon, and what have you, as Trump continues his revenge tour of 2025. Tabitha Brown has a lot of businesses. There has a lot of stuff that she does with Target in terms of the retail, and also Amazon and Walmart. And she's not asking you not to boycott. She's not saying don't boycott those companies, or especially Target. What she's saying is, if you do, this will hurt me and other minority owned black businesses. And keep this in mind, um, women's black owned businesses, minority owned black owned businesses have a hell of a time getting advertising revenue as well. So that's something that's been something that I know Roland Martin has talked about repeatedly, about how tough advertise that, like how almost impossible for black owned businesses to get any piece of advertising revenue. Here's what I'll say, and I hear Tabitha Brown, well respected actress and well respected in the culture. This fight is bigger than any individual. Like, I can't fuck with Target no more. I can't fuck with Walmart. And as hard as it's gonna be, Amazon, yeah. I mean, I look, it's gonna be difficult, but we, like, at some point you gotta take a stand. And at some point, if you want to win the war, you may have to lose. You gotta lose a battle. You may have to lose a battle to win a war. Uh, put money into people who genuinely don't give a shit about you because of your color. It's probably one of the worst forms of self hatred that you can exhibit. Um, Again, we didn't. These programs were created. DEI, affirmative action. The reason why these programs were created, it was because of how the history of this country when it comes to racism. This country is built off racism. That's why these programs even ever existed. So when you see someone wanting to just dismiss that, I don't see how you can rock with that as a minority or a woman or somebody in the LGBTQ community. I don't see I don't see how you can put your money into that. I really don't. At some point, we gotta take a stand. And and I thought about something today too as well. You know, if you're a black owned minority business, this is where collaboration comes into play. I know it's a lot. I know a number of people who are independent business owners, have LLCs doing their own thing, and that's fine. But this is where collaboration never hurts. Collaboration never hurts, and we're better together than we are apart. Say that. And this is where, when you collaborate, if you could choose to collaborate and get together to where you're not dependent on a Target or Amazon or Walmart, especially as a black man, black woman, minority in general. It's time to stop depending on these companies that don't give a shit. But again, that takes discipline. It takes sacrifice. So we'll see what happens. I respect her. I listen. What she's saying is real. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt her business. But again, this is about we gotta look at the big picture. We gotta look at the big picture here when it comes to this. That's and one last thing. I can say that. So real quick on Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll becomes the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders at the age of 73. He'll be 74 in September. I understand why Pete Carroll would want that job. Pete Carroll would want any NFL job at this point right now. It's not like he had a lot to choose from. I don't get a franchise who's clearly rebuilding wanting to go in the direction of choosing a 73-year-old coach. Uh, I've always respected Pete Carroll. What he did at USC was absolutely legendary. Won a Super Bowl with Seattle. Should have cost himself 2 Super Bowls. He should have won a second one had he handed the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. But we don't have to revisit that. My Seattle Seahawks fans. But I mean, I don't think Pete Carroll was at that level to where at 73, I would want him coaching I would see him coaching my franchise for the next 4 to 5 years. And again, I get the whole, he has a lot of energy. He's the youngest 73. That's not, 73 is 73 in coaching. And there's plenty of talented young coordinators that you can go after. They're like, so I don't understand this move. Say they don't have a quarterback. They are drafting six. So, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders more likely will be gone. So at that point, you might be reaching for a quarterback, which is, will set your franchise back instead of maybe trading down the pick and accumulating some more players. I mean, I don't understand this move. I just don't. It's the Raiders. So, the Raiders continue to do what they do, one of the more toxic, dysfunctional franchises in the National Football League. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I will see you next time. So long.